Traditional sweet recipes from Malta, available online at www.traditionalmaltesweets.com. Traditional sweet recipes, creating a small slice of Malta that feels like home.
Merħba lura fil-programm u fl-aħħar taqsima tagħna llum Mark Avellino ser jitkellem ma' Franklin Cauchi, audiologista li emigra lejn l-Awstralja propju f'dawn l-aħħar snin.
Franklin, you've got a quite interesting migration story to ending up in Melbourne. How long have you been in Melbourne?
Well, it's actually exactly now 10 years, which is, I think it's quite a remarkable time for me to have spent 10 years, especially with this cold weather in Melbourne. But yes, it's been 10 years now.
Well, I haven't mentioned that you're involved in vestibular care, and was that the sort of thing where you thought, okay, because it's a specialist area, it would give you an advantage with immigration?
Well, in my case, the journey is a bit different because I started in a profession and then I came over to Australia to study further at Melbourne Uni, and then I sort of branched into the vestibular component, which is more related to balance and balance difficulties, but also hearing too, which is the main focus that I, work in basically. Yeah.
So when you got here and you got through your degree, sorry, your masters, and then you set up practice. What influenced where you would locate and how you would set your practice up?
Well, basically, the first thing was coming to Australia. My main focus was to get into University of Melbourne, which is a top university in my field. So after I completed my studies, I was lucky enough to be offered a position at the Pioneer Hospital, which is a very prestigious position to be in, and the University of Melbourne too. They asked me to be part of the clinical team there with them, and so I sort of had to take that offer, and which meant that I was going to, remain in Melbourne for a bit longer. Although my wife would have loved to relocate to Queensland, where it's a bit warmer. So that sort of started the process, and over the years, you develop friendships, and you meet colleagues, surgeons, neurologists, other audiologists, and so you sort of develop a pattern or a history, and you end up, spending more time in the area. So that was the beginning of it, and then after we established ourselves here, I sort of branched a bit further and moved a little bit out of the hospital and started practicing in different suburbs and locations, basically. In terms of vestibular care, what that very difficult word means, it's more related to balance. So how do you how do you walk, your stance, and are you balanced? Do you get any dizziness? So it's something quite important from a young age, but more so when you get older, when you start to lean a bit more and you start to find it a bit harder to to keep your balance, basically. So it's an area that can be checked and assessed. There are various ways how we do that, but that's not the only area. Hearing is also a very important component, especially with the elderly who have a lot of hearing problems, and that's something that pensioners, especially in Australia, can benefit from, because the government actually has programs in place to help elderly people, which is something which I must say, for example, our friends in Malta do not have these programs. So I think we're quite lucky in Australia to have these sort of services provided. So and there are audiologists and like myself who visit different places where you can get these services, basically.
So for the children of older parents, obviously, they need to sort of know that these sort of services are available, and is the best way to sort of just contact the Pioneer Hospital, or is it like if they need to sort of outreach to these type of services?
Yes, certainly. With the hospital, that would be more of a public position that you need to visit for some of the services. but you can access all these services where providers like myself would be sitting at, you know. So if you're in my case, I have different locations that, you know, in the western suburbs where someone can come in and get those services, either through Medicare or through the Office of Hearing Services. So yes, it's very easy to get these services done. You just need to know about them, basically.
Yeah. How important do you think it is that if a Maltese person needed to find somebody that can speak Maltese, that they can?
I think it's, well, I never thought that languages were that important, but since moving to Australia, and I speak other languages other than Maltese, like Italian, I'm finding it actually helps me a lot with these patients. To give them the information in their language, especially in Maltese, which is my language. I love speaking my language. So I think if I had to jekk nibda nitkellem bil-Malti ma' xi ħadd Malti, jieħu pjaċir ħafna għax jifhem iktar, ikun jista' jifhem iktar l-importanza fuq il-problemi ta' smigħ meta jkollu problema biex jisma' x'irid jagħmel u li hemm servizzi għalih li jistgħu jgħinuh, u anke jekk ikollu problemi ta' biex jimxi u biex iżomm ruħu stirat u jimxi kif suppost, li hemm affarijiet li jista' jagħmel ukoll biex jgħin f'dak il-qasam ukoll, ġifieri.
And I guess the importance of that is that they get to actually understand in their own language.
Of course.
Exactly what you want them to do.
Inkun nista' żgur dak li tkun tista' tispjegalu aħjar għax kultant jekk inti ma tkunx imdorri b'ċertu kliem bl-Ingliż m'intix ħadd tifhimhom. U jista' jkun li il-pazjent x'in ikun jipprova jispjega l-problema tiegħu, it-tabib jew l-ispeċjalista ma jifhmux għax ma jkunx jista' juża l-vokabularju adattat għalih għal ħaġa. Allura bil-Malti, peress li aħna mdorrin nitkellmu bil-Malti, tkun iktar faċli għal dak li jkun biex jesprimi ruħu u jifhem x'inhu jiġri.
And that is so important, isn't it?
I think it is very important. That's the main thing in our field. You need to be able to communicate and make sure that the person who needs your services understands exactly what he needs or what she needs to do.
Yeah, and I think that for me, I think that's really important, because I remember with my parents, you would go to a hospital and they'd think they don't understand, but they do understand, but they just sometimes their head's thinking in Maltese.
Yes.
So they're not immediately kind of connecting with what the doctor's asking them to say.
Yes, yes.
So to have a specialist that can actually talk the technical stuff,
yes, yes,
and convey it in a way that they understand is going to make care a lot easier.
Yes, of course. Yeah. But on the other hand, if there are limitations in language, then there are services that can be used, such as an interpreter. So anyone can ask for an interpreter in any location, so they will get some extra help. But it is true, it's better to have the person who directly can speak to you in the language, that you know, your original language, and that makes it much easier for you, isn't it?
U dik l-intervista twassalna fit minn programmi ħorta Maltese DownUnder. Għal dawk li xtuq jagħmlu kuntatt magħna napprezzaw jekk tibatulna kummenti u suġġerimenti fuq l-email tagħna maltesetv@gmail.com jew inkella fuq il-paġna tagħna fuq Facebook Maltese DownUnder. Jiena Marlin nagħtikom appuntamenti oħra bħallum ġimgħa fl-istess ħin. Saħħa!